I don't normally engage with stuff like this because it almost never goes anywhere, but this time I guess I am really curious, like genuinely curious, where it goes. I got an email a little while ago while talking about demi-gloom, talking to Ben Shapiro. I said that I had never seen a conservative answer my questions with regards to like the definition of woman in comparison to the definition of mother with regards to the fact that adoptive mothers are still called mothers. I've said like no conservative has ever given me an answer on this. Like, why do you think there can't be a non-biological definition of woman if you do believe there can be a non-biological definition of mother, basically? And I got an email like, I don't know, 4 hours ago or something saying, here's my answer to it. And they were pretty nice in the email. So like, okay, I'll respond respectfully, you know what I mean? Like, let's listen, okay? I want to know like what, let's see. Excellent question. That's me. One that I've never seen a conservative answer. Okay, I'm going to move my cam to the top right. So past Vosh and current Vosh, even though they're separated by only like 1 week, can operate in tandem properly.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, a fan of mine spoke to Ben Shapiro at UW-Madison, because the only people that conservative demagogues will talk to. I got to be quick with the time here. Like with Ben Shapiro.
The opposing view.
Okay.
Conservatives are afraid to talk to people with opposing views, but also good colleges shouldn't let people with opposing views in.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Those aren't mutually exclusive statements. Yeah. Like, for instance, a person can be like a Nazi can be like cowardly, but that doesn't mean that I think universities should like give Nazis a platform, right? Like, yeah. Like, the problem with having Ben Shapiro at a college campus isn't that his arguments are undefeatable. It's just they're bad people with bad arguments, and they basically just use college platforms as a way of like boosting analytics and legitimizing really stupid arguments, Like, I wouldn't want a gibbering retard up there either, I guess. Like it'd be I feel like there should be some kind of standard.
Hello, Ben. There was a time where the word mother...
Oh, wow. You can't tell they're a Vosh fan at all.
There was a time...
No, you can, because she's wearing a nice jacket.
Where the word mother
we're all about
described
the
a woman
now.
in relation to her biological offspring, but our definition has since shifted to account for adoption, leaving us with a more social and less biological outlook on motherhood. My question for you is how affirming transgender identity is such a threat to biology when we have clear precedent for similar shifts in language?
To be fair, Ben doesn't actually ever really answer this question.
Yeah.
But I will.
Okay, so usually there is a distinction. You can call somebody mother, but then an adoptive mother is not going to be insulted when you say biological mother. Right? An adoptive mother is not going to say...
But they're still a mother.
I would disagree. I think technically they're not actually the mother. We use it in a social setting. And
that's the point, though. Like, there is no, like, technically, right? If a person uses the word that way... Like, if you want to go to technicality, you can go to a Google definition, right? But Google, like, you can look up definitions, and, like, they will include adoptive mothers. It depends. Like, there's biological mothers, there's adoptive mothers. They're still called mothers, But at this point, what you're attempting to say, like, even on your terms, this argument doesn't work, because then you're saying, oh, there's a technical definition, but there's also a widely accepted social definition that has gained respect in basically all levels of society. That is just, like, a caveat to the broader definition, In which case, like, if you did that for trans people, that would be a pro-trans argument, It's not like I'm making the argument that, like, trans women and cis women mean the same thing, only saying that they're both under the category of woman.
And to be polite, if someone is fulfilling the role of the mother.
It's not just a matter of politeness. That's like megacope. The idea that people only refer to adoptive mothers as, like, politeness is like, just authentically incorrect. And if you believe that, then you're, I don't know, like, just... socially unaware. It's because people use the term mother to refer to more than just the person who, like, physically birthed you. Like, obviously, like, it's not controversial.
But I think technically speaking, they aren't the mother.
Up yours, Joseph. You're not my real
Family Guy clips. Okay. I wasn't prepared for this rhetorical device.
dad.
Obviously just a meme on the common trope. But when the child says, "You're not my real dad," you're acting as my dad. But the real dad is the biological one. I apply that same logic to the trans debate, out of politeness.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're basing your logical arguments on shit teenagers yell when they're feeling upset, that's probably not a great foundation. The key thing about when children shout to their adoptive parents, "You're not my real dad," is they're not correct. If they said, you're not my biological dad, then sure, but they don't say that. What they're doing is incorrectly ascribing the validity of parenthood onto biological parentage, which is something that, again, they do in the heat of the moment because they're a rebellious teenager. It's not logical. You're kind of comparing your own logic on trans people to that of like a petulant teenager. Oh, true. That is often used with step-parents as well, more so than adoptive parents. Of course, a step-parent can be considered like a mother or a father, depending on the circumstances.
I will call you a woman if you want me to, but you're really not a woman. And we already do this as a culture.
But Edward...
With adoptive parents? Like, is that something you've done? Like, you know somebody who adopted a kid when they were like 6 months old? And the parent is like, yeah, I'm their parent. You know, I'm their mom. And then you're like, I know you're not their real mom, but I'll just say so to be polite. Notice how in order to justify transphobia, you have to do these like really weird socially stilted arguments. You know what I mean? Like you have to kind of ignore existing social standards and decorum. Like there's some kind of inconsistency you have to fight past in order to make it work.
Edward has serious doubts that he's the father of the oldest child
I don't know what this is in reference to.
of Dorisha.
He the father of
Is this copyright? Hold on.
Does.
Of the father. At the end of the day,
Edward, you are not.
so therefore,
Yeah, so what they're doing there is they're testing whether or not a child is their biological parent, but isn't this usually with regards to like divorces and parental rights? Like, do I have to take care of that kid? Are they biologically mine? What does that have to do with whether or not adoptive parents are or are not actually their mom or dad? Why are we using Family Guy Maury and Teenage Fitz to like... Again, like, I just feel like arguments like this they like work backwards from a position that trans people must be invalid. Therefore, like, let me deconstruct every normal thing I know about society. You know what I mean? Like, I like, let me just ignore all of these existing social standards, because if I acknowledge them, that would sort of like imply the validity of trans people.
trans women are technically not women.
Also, what is so if by technically you mean according to a specific definition, but not another one that I like less, like, what does that even mean, technically? Because earlier you said that technically adoptive mothers aren't actually mothers, but there are definitions of mother that include adoptive mothers. So by what technicality is that? It doesn't mean anything, right? What you mean when you're saying technically is smartly, like big finger quotes, you know, like, well, socially speaking, people may foolishly say this, but logically, But that's a very silly and kind of dumb way of thinking about how language and society work.
Even though in some social settings we may call them mothers, technically they're not.
By whose by your technically?
It becomes a question of, should we as a society adopt this definition, which is not based on biology?
See, this is what they never answer. Like, if you look up the dictionary definition of mother from Oxford Languages, a woman in relation to her child or children. Similar, female parent, biological mother. If mother just meant biological mother, why wouldn't that have been the definition right up here? To bring up a child with care and affection. To give birth to, dated. Like, the idea that nobody says that like adoptive mothers just aren't mothers. I don't know. Like, yeah. A mother is the female parent of a child. A woman may be considered a mother by virtue of having given birth, by raising a child who may or may not be her biological offspring, or by supplying her ovum for fertilization in the case of gestational surrogacy. Like, by what technical... Like, again, this is like, well, my logical definition, but your definition doesn't match up with society. Or the definitions. Do you mean, like, the real definition in some abstract, you know, like, way that where real is what you decide is real? You know? Like, what does that mean? They're still a mother. which indicates that the term mother is not purely biological. So if we're willing to make that acknowledgement, is there not perhaps some other acknowledgement we might make vis-a-vis the relationship between a social and biological construct?
We can make it a more social definition.
All definitions are social. That's not like a subjective argument on my part. That is literally how definitions work. We don't discover them. They're not elements in the periodic table. They're always social.
We can do anything we want with regards to definitions.
Yeah, because
we could change the definition of tree to mean cloud as well. So when I say tree, I could refer to either of these things.
That's true. And since definitions are constructed by humans, it seems as though we're constructing them towards some kind of end. Like there's something we're doing with definitions, you know? Like there's a point to it all. My argument, and the argument of people who study linguistics, would be that the point of constructing definitions the way we do is to serve utility. Like if you want to, you could argue, since all definitions are socially constructed, yeah, sure, a tree is a cloud or whatever, you know? Like if you want to, but that doesn't give us much utility, right? Whereas there really isn't any loss in utility by referring to adoptive mothers as mother. If you want to, you can just say birth mother to refer to the like that's what everyone does. If there's a situation where there's any confusion, you can say birth mother, you know?
But obviously, trees and clouds are so different that they warrant a separate definition. In the case of an adopted mother, they fulfill the role of a biological mother. So, as a social definition, we put that under its purview. But to me,
it's all social definition. There's no other type of definition. We don't discover any definitions. Like we don't unearth them, or we don't like turn on a particle accelerator and smash protons into elements to create new definitions, you know?
A trans woman is so different to a biological woman.
I don't care. To you, I don't care. Okay. That's, okay.
That they're not the same thing. And I think the fact that you need to take surgery and hormone therapy.
What about like tall women and short women or blonde women? But don't make me do the whole thing again. Like, again, this is just how definitions work. You have cis and trans women that are both qualifiers to the broader term woman. That's just how it works, you know? Like, you know, you could show me a blonde woman and a black-haired woman, and I'd be like, bro, those two are obviously different. There's no way that's a woman. And I point at the redhead woman or the blonde woman or whatever, because my image of a woman is the one with the black hair. Like, it's stupid.
Therapy proves how different they are.
They're real. Wait. It's, again, like this is what I mean by conservatives not even being able to engage with these arguments. Nobody is saying trans and cis women are the same. Just that they're both women. Like, you betray a fundamental ignorance of the way definitions are constructed when you do that, because it indicates that you think that all definitions are, like, holistic but also mutually exclusive, or all definitions contradict things that are outside the current definition. Like, it suggests that you don't really understand the linguistics at play, you know? You can make a utility argument to argue that trans women and cis women are so different that they should be referred to in different ways. Thankfully, we have the terms trans women and cis women. So you can. If you're so insistent on, like, woman, like the term woman, like if that's the term you care about, gatekeeping that out of the hands of trans women, then you would have to make, like, a really good comprehensive argument as to why we, A, get more social utility in that, in spite of the fact that millions of people really, really care about them meaning the same things. And there's no right or wrong answer, right? I mean, it's all social. It's just a matter of utility. So what utility do we lose in including trans women in the category of women? Because I've never seen any loss of utility here, like, at all. It's usually a lot easier to just distinguish with in-group categories. Real mother is X. We got to be quick because we got a debate, so we got to move quick. People don't say that, because that would imply that an adoptive mother is not a real mother, when they are.
You're not my real dad.
Again, this is pedantry.
Please don't use Family Guy clips to support arguments that you make against me. It's also not pedantry to say that adoptive mothers are mothers. That's not the definition of pedantry.
But I don't think they are, quote unquote, a real mother.
The biological mother is an inappropriate term.
According to the Oxford Dictionary definition, they are, so I don't know, you know.
The trans movement claims that the term biological female is somehow offensive. The trans
Dodging the question, by the way, the question that she asked was about the acceptance of terminology shifting with regards to the biological nature of motherhood, not whether or not trans people are offended by the term biological woman.
Ben is dodging the question, but it's still an interesting point, because this is where the comparison breaks down. In general, when we say mother, we're using the societal definition that includes adoptive mothers.
I don't understand what argument he's making when he acknowledges that the social I don't know what that means, like the social definition versus the technical definition, but the technical definition includes the social definition. I don't get it.
But in the case of woman, we have to decide between the biological and the social definition that Foch is pushing.
There is no biological versus social definition. It's a definition which means that it was socially constructed. It's a social definition that refers to a variety of things, including social role and biology. They're not. They're not. Yeah. This is why. Like, this is the frustration I have. I don't think the person who's saying this is dumb or anything. I just think that conservatism and reactionary thought fundamentally. This is like one of the biggest tendencies of reactionary thinking is the tendency to essentialize language and social cues and social constructs, because it takes a very active sociological imagination to look at the world and to go, that doesn't have to be that way. It was constructed this way. There's nothing innate about this. We can rearrange it if we need to. Like, that's a sociology thing, you know? But conservatives hate sociology because it never agrees with them. So you have to get into these weird arguments where, like, there are objective definitions as opposed to social definitions. You can say some definitions are used in different contexts, right? Like, there are lots of definitions that are used very specifically in, say, construction or in geology that are used much more loosely when in like common parlance. And in that case, you would say something like the technical definition, like in the literal technical profession, and the like common definition, but both are equally social. They're both equally socially constructed. They just refer to different things. Like maybe people who study trees are arboreologists, I don't know, have very specific definitions for certain kinds of like leaves and root patterns, but we just kind of use them willy-nilly, you know? Neither of those definitions are inherently correct or incorrect. Some of them are more useful in different contexts. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's the...
When we're speaking casually. But most people in society think your sex defines whether you are a man or a woman. If we are to be forced to use a definition...
Are we then making the argument that majority rules is how we determine what the technically correct definition is? I love when they refer to the dictionary definition of female, then conveniently leave out the fact that Merriam-Webster changed the definition to include trans women. Yeah, we can't... So social... The fact that definitions are socially constructed does not mean that it's a majority rules thing. You can make the arguments that you want to for any given set of definitions. It's possible for a single word to have like a bunch of different definitions, and oftentimes those definitions aren't even very clear. Define chair, right? The question is, like, how useful is it? And I think that there is a very strong argument to be made that there is way more benefit to including trans women within the category woman than there is in excluding them. There's basically nothing you lose by doing so that you can't fix by simply using the term cis woman to refer to cis women. You know, like, what we understand to be woman or feminine is highly tied to social standards. So the idea that everything that a woman is completely rooted in biology is delusional from like first position, right? The idea, like, summarize woman, and then you collect all of the ideas and concepts and like social roles associated with woman. It's not just having an ovum. Like, there's a lot of social stuff in there, and it varies. Like, you ask like an Iranian guy, an Indian guy, a Japanese guy, a Russian guy, a Brazilian guy, whatever, like, not just guys, girls too, whatever, I don't care. Like, what it means to be a woman or what a woman is, and you'll get like very like a wide variety of definitions, and none of them are inherently right or wrong, right? Like, we're not pulling on an objective thread here. We're not trying to discover some cosmic truth. They're just, social roles. The question is, are these social roles like good or bad? Are they harmful or not? Not are they like empirically correct or not? Because that's not the metric by which we're defining anything here, you know?
Definition. Should it not be democratic? I'm happy for every individual.
No, that is the Democrat. That's not how definitions work. If that was the case, there would be no technical definitions because the conventional use of every term would overwhelm the technical, and you would have construction workers using like inept terms loosely. Like, no, that's not how that works.
To use whatever definition of woman they would like to use. But I don't think you would be happy with that.
No, they can, and I will make moral arguments for why harmful definitions are bad. That's how it works. Yeah, everybody. That is already how language works, by the way. People have like private and public definitions. They have like socially constructed definitions that they pull from the broader group, and ones that they construct themselves and like inflect on the broader group. You know. There's a lot of variety there. But yeah, like if people can have whatever definitions, like I'll say this, and you know, I think that most progressives, if they thought for a second, would agree with me. The definition of a woman that includes a trans woman and one that doesn't are both equally correct and incorrect, because correctness isn't the metric by which you look at definitions, you know, but they're not equally harmful. The one in which trans women are included is less harmful, which is why I like having the utility argument, because anything else is just a waste of time, right? Because that's not even what definitions are for.
But millennials and a lot of people on your side of the spectrum think it should be illegal to misgender someone. So
let's go. I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak for like a random Newsweek poll, which is what this is pulling from. I don't think misgendering people should be a crime. I think persistent misgendering a person of a person when you're in a position of authority over them can be harassment for sure. Like, it's not a crime to call a person a dumbass, but if you're their boss and you call it to them over and over and over and over again, like that can be a case for a civil suit. It's not even a misgendering thing, really. It's just a matter of like, are you inflicting social or verbal harm on somebody? You know, there's already a standard for that. People used to do pistol duels over that shit.
You're forcing the majority of people to adopt a definition that they don't want to use.
Now, this is, first of all, don't you people. This is a Newsweek poll. Second of all, like, we can't speak to the perceived results of this hypothetical. Like, this isn't in relation to any law. People say lots of dumbass shit when polled, you know? Third of all, again, like without any more specific info, like under what, like this is like the Jordan Peterson tier fearmongering, right? Where he was like, Bill C-16 is going to mean people are being arrested for mischief, and it just never happened. Like, it's been like 7 years since that bill passed in Canada, and it just never happened, you know? Because it was all like fearmongering. I don't think you need to worry about this. I think if you're persistently disrespectful towards a person, it can cause social problems. And if you do so in some very specific circumstances, it can cause legal issues. But that's not just about misgendering. That's about a lot of stuff. Like, I like, you know, restricting my freedom of speech to call a person a dipshit over and over and over again from outside their window at 3 in the morning.
That isn't based on science.
Through these, no definitions are based on science, please. Definitions can refer to scientific concepts, but no definitions are based on science. The universe doesn't give us linguistic categories of the world. It just gives us the world. We're the ones who come up with linguistic categories. Social process of adoption, which is not biological and therefore not tied to direct genetic lineage, we can call a person a mother even if they share no direct biological relationship with an adopted child. Definitions are not objective, they're not concrete, there aren't rules, they're just what we generally agree upon. They're a social construct.
It's what we generally agree upon. And as I've shown, most people don't agree with your definition.
And yet, you were referring to technical definitions earlier. So I feel like this is a bad faith interpretation, but just in case you don't think it's bad faith, I'll clarify. When I say what we generally agree upon, what I'm referring to is like the theory of language. When people talk to one another, we have general assumptions of what words mean. And when we exchange our words, like, we hope that we share the same meanings, you know? Like, when I say a sentence here, I don't know for a fact that every word in the sentence that I'm speaking will be understood by my audience the same way I understand it when I speak it. Like, this is the thought-language gap, you know? This is like a fundamental, inextricable part of being human, you know? This is why we all die alone. You can get good at communicating, but at the end of the day, you're still working through a filter, always through a filter. So when I say what we agree upon, I'm just talking about how we talk to others. Obviously, not every definition has to tick over the 51% threshold. Many words have many different definitions. sometimes in common use, sometimes between different uses. If we were going by like pure democratic vote or whatever, like would that mean that, like, I don't know, the massive number of Indian and Chinese people would get to like overwhelm all of our definitions objectively, and now it's like objectively true that chi shao means pancake? Like that doesn't make any sense. Clearly that does. Like objective linguistic boundaries end at the border of nation states. Like no, because then you're not even arguing they're objective. There will never be like a fundamental here, right? It'll always be just, what are you trying to communicate to people? You know, what point are you trying to get across, and how? You just said a Chinese slur. Oops.
So that's it. It should be settled, right? But no. Of course the authoritarian wants to impose his definition on...
Okay, I assume you're being facetious here, but it is the right for everyone to make moral arguments for certain definitions being better than others. That's fine. Like, I've been doing that a lot with fashion lately. That's fine. Let's not pretend that's authoritarianism. That is just how language works. When words change definitions, it's because one person, or many people, I guess, made an argument for the word changing definition in that way. Or at the very least, they used it in a different way and it led to a change in use, which is a sort of soft imposition of their cultural power. That's just how it is.
Other people. But I do agree with him. Definitions aren't objective. It's how useful they are.
Well, then how? What is with the technical? What? Then why the business with this is the technical versus the social, thereby implying there's any definition that isn't socially constructed?
That matters. How good they are at reflecting reality. I think...
No. Not reflecting reality. That's not... It's how useful they are, yes, but reflecting reality isn't... If we boiled our language down to reflecting reality, then we would... I don't know, what would we have? Like newspeak? Like how many words would we get? The point is to communicate our thoughts and our feelings, like, which are, of course, a part of reality. But, like, the idea of definitions are socially constructed and the goal of them is to reflect reality accurately is basically just arguing that they're objective through one layer of removal. You're saying, like, oh, they're not objective, but we can make them as close to objective as possible, which you can't. And that's not what we do this for.
A non-biological mother can easily jump into the role of a mother. But I don't think...
How? Wait. How, wait. If you think mother means to give birth to, and anyone saying otherwise is just being polite, how could an adoptive mother jump into the role of mother? Does an adoptive mother jump into the role of giving birth? Like adoptive mothers like sort of cram you back up there, then poop you back out again? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't simultaneously argue that the fundamental nature of mother in a linguistic sense is technically to give birth, but then say that you can fulfill the role of one by raising somebody. Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're fulfilling the role of a definition by doing something, then that's the definition.
I think I could say the same for a trans woman, despite all the surgery in the world.
So just really quickly, because I feel like I've responded pretty good faith for the most part, so I'm just going to lean into this a little bit. If you sincerely think that the existence of ugly trans women is some kind of endorsement of your argument, you're legitimately low IQ. You know for a goddamn fact that lots of women are not that attractive, cis or trans. So what are you implying here? I know that you think it's like a dig or a gotcha. The only thing I'm triggered by is the waste of my time. You know there are cis women who are ugly. Should I put photos of them up to prove my point, or have you seen enough of them just living your day-to-day life? What argument do you think you're making? The only thing you're proving is that there is no argument here, that your beliefs are still framed through the stupid, primitive disgust that you feel at something you don't understand or don't particularly like, and that your arguments, the logic that you have failed, by the way, to consistently demonstrate and hold to, is just the cope that you've come up with to legitimize your feelings. You're emotional. But fundamentally, you're not any different from like a woman who gets upset over something irrational and then stews over it and then constructs an argument to explain her feelings away when in reality it's just her being irrational. You're doing that. Like, that's you. Which I guess, if anything, would make you the real trans woman. Do you like how I got around to that, guys? Did anyone see me walking the long road to that? Yeah. Yeah. in all seriousness, like that's sort of a confirmation of the time waster, like it's sort of a defeater to the concept of progressivism that there are unattractive trans women. Look, do you see this sick denim jacket that I'm wearing? Compared to me, they're all unattractive. What are you gonna do? This guy is a biblical prescriptivist and a fan of John Doyle. I should have checked the videos beforehand. Man, if you... Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't even check. This is the guy who keeps making videos on me. Okay, well, if you actually care about truth conceptually, I doubt you very often get responses, certainly not from me, okay? So this is the response you've gotten. And my argument is that, based on the logical arguments you've provided, they're self-defeating. They're inconsistent. I feel that I have sufficiently demonstrated that you don't really care about this. Like, like it's just sort of like you feel some way, and it's just a matter of justifying it, But yeah, I'm praying for you. He's gonna live off this response for 5 years. Yeah, I guess so. That's true. Well, hey, listen, he was nice in the email. Maybe it was just like, maybe if I'm nice, he'll respond. Whatever. It's an educational. Does everyone watching right now understand what I'm saying when I talk about definitions, okay? Keep in mind that when I talk about the nature of definitions, I am speaking on this in a manner which is as close to objective as is basically possible in the field of linguistics. When I say definitions are socially constructed, like, this should be taken with just about the same amount of, I guess, I don't know, like, empirical legitimacy as the theory of gravity. There isn't really any other way of thinking about definitions outside of maybe some kind of, like, incredibly hardcore, like, religious prescriptivism where you argue that all definitions are directly given by God, and then you would have to pretend that they don't change all the time or that language doesn't change or what. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible, to argue that language is not socially constructed is essentially the same as to argue that fashion trends are innate, empirical, and are discovered by humans. Like they're fundamental to the universe, rather than things we construct socially. If that makes any sense. Like that's the level of I guess silliness you have to operate on. Is it easier for you to go over videos than bring on people to talk? Because I emailed you and you said you were overbooked. Will it be easier for me to video? Do not get any ideas, okay? I just wanted to see if there could be any, like, real engagement with the point made here, which there can't be, of course, because I'm right. Like, engagement here is just wiffle waffle. Do you have an opinion on Platonic ideals? Platonic ideals, like, predate the idea that humans are made of four humors or whatever. I don't know. The Platonic ideal is like a concept that can help you understand something. It's not like a literal thing. Like, what is the Platonic ideal of a chair? I have seen so many chair designs in my life. Please find for me what a chair is supposed to look like. Usually, in my opinion, when people invoke metaphysical explanations for social constructs or for definitions, it's usually because they're weak-willed and stupid, and they want to find some kind of big, like, empirical hammer that they can use to smash the argument down. Like, I'm right because God says I'm right. Or I'm right because I've invented this philosophical concept where one particular thing is the most real of a thing, and I say this thing is the most real version of it, Not to dunk on, like, Greek philosophy too much, or aesthetics or whatever, but, like, yeah, I think it takes a lot of guts to engage with communication the way that it actually exists, which is ephemeral, formless, socially constructed, and entirely derived from utility. I think it takes a lot of balls to do that, because you basically have to say, like, I know that the foundations of our communication are entirely built on, like, pillars of salt, and still I will work to build bridges to others. I think that's way more based in Red Pill than Chad than, like, actually, my specific definitions in my specific social circle in this specific language at this specific time period is the objective way of language, and everything else is wrong. And in 20 years, bro, everything's going to sound different again. Language is changing faster now than it ever has before. Okay, I think we made our point. We shouldn't keep our interlocutor waiting too much. Do all definitions basically boil down to saying you know it when you see it? No. A definition is you say what a thing is, and then you make an argument for its utility, right? Now, obviously, you don't need to be, like, the kind of autist who does this with everything all the time, because it's always going to be kind of ephemeral. But when you're really arguing definitions, the thing that you should actually be arguing is, should this term refer to this thing? And if so, why or why not, right? Like what is the argument for or against that? And honestly, most of the time, the definitions are pretty meaningless, you know? Like, there's no objective reason why there have to be 15,000 different kinds of metal, like death metal, black death metal, house trap core metal. Like, there's no objective reason. Like, when a new definition or like a new genre of metal is sort of unearthed via a new definition, it's not like you've discovered some type of thing that didn't exist before. You've just split an existing definition into two or more. And that's not innately bad or good. You've just sort of added specificity. But sometimes specificity can be kind of bad in the sense that it introduces unneeded complexity, right? So you have like higher order terms that you can refer to. Like, for example, you might refer to the term woman as a broader term if you don't want to get into the specifics of engaging with terms like trans woman or cis woman. Just, hypothetically, as an example.